Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I miss you guys. I call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmaster Club 6440 to order. Before we proceed with the meeting, please silence your cell phones. And I would like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Please help me welcome this morning our Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie Byrd.
Hey.
Don't overdo it. Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Mayday. Not the distress signal. Although around about 10 o'clock Sunday night, it almost became the distress signal. Mayday, mayday, mayday. However, Julia came in with a save and a couple of other people stepped up. Okay, yeah, Julia. Now, let's change our agenda, amend it to put Alexandra Balda in for grammarian instead of Erica, who has illness this morning. And our third evaluator to be announced is Samuel Bailey.
Oh, look at that.
Look at the job he has.
What a good
Woo, set up. Got that? I think everybody else is here. Everybody else is on board. You see yourself? Yay. Okay. You see the word of the day. The grammarian will go over it with you as well. Okay. Folks, anybody have any idea what May Day is, or how it originated, or where it's celebrated? What is it? Anybody?
All over the world.
Toastmaster.
All over the world. You're about right. Yes. Anybody know what it is? What did it stem from?
What is what?
Labor.
May Day.
It's a call for help.
Not that May Day.
Great student.
May Day, the spring celebration celebrated May 1st.
It's a labor-related holiday.
It did evolve into that, absolutely. In this country too. But it originally started out with the Romans, of course, celebrating the goddess of Floriana, whatever her name was, of drinking and dancing and revelry. It represented spring, awakening, newness, evolved into fertility and all kinds of other, I won't say whatever kind of rites and passages they had, but it was in this country relatively harmless until the labor force got involved with it. And I'll tell you some more ditties about it and even show you some of the beautiful little printouts that I did surrounding May Day and its traditions. I'll tell you about the maypole and the dances in a little while. But I want to introduce our technical table back there. I'm going to start with our grammarian who's going to tell us about our word of the day, Alexandra Balda.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The word of the day is esoteric. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You sure did.
Esoteric. What is esoteric? Esoteric is difficult to understand.
Abstruse.
Thank you. No publicity disclosed, confidential, or rare. An example is her software success was based on an esoteric programming language. Please, I'm going to keep an ear of the word of the day, and each word of the day, if you don't say, it's 25 cents.
Yes.
And you still want me to tell my role?
Yes.
Thank you. Grammarian, it is my function to select a word of the day to help build members' vocabularies. Each member, when called upon to speak, is encouraged to use the word of the day. Other members may gently rap on the table when they hear a member use the word. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
That, you can give your own version next time, you don't have to read it. And the grammarian will also be listening for improper use of the English language to help us improve, right?
Absolutely,
Okay,
thank you.
absolutely. Erica chose that word of the day, by the way, she just couldn't be here to present it. Next, we will have our odd counter, Mr. Gus Davies. Tell us what you're gonna do for us today.
As a counter, it is my function to listen to the use of filler words such as great, you know, so, okay, and other audible pauses as fillers. I will be noting if members perform any double clutches, which means to say things twice, such as it means, this means, this means. Finally, I will include things which might be distracting, such as lip smacks. I will present my reports during the evaluation portion of the meeting, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, and it's 5 cents per
5 cents.
infraction, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And now all important time, Macarena Torres.
My role as timer is to time the speakers, evaluators, table topic participants to ensure they meet timing requirements. I will demonstrate the timing lights, which will be displayed as follows. Speakers, green, 5, yellow, 6, red, 7 minutes. Table topics, 30 seconds, yellow, 45 seconds, red, 1 minute. Evaluators, green, 2 minutes, yellow, 2.5 minutes, red, 3 minutes. At the end of each segment, I will report the timing results.
Okay. I think we have 6 to 8 minutes, right? Jorge? 6 to 8 minutes? So time at 6, 7, and 8 instead of 5, 6, and 7, okay? All right, I'm gonna go right into it. Our speeches, our prepared speeches. Speaker number 1 says he's going to attempt to persuade us that it's not so much in your voice, but in your hands. Help me welcome Martin Bell doing Persuade with Power from the Competent Communication Manual, speech number 9.
Toastmaster, and good morning, friends. There are more connections between our brains and the palm of our hands than any other body part. Our palms do more things, can do more things than any other body part. Would you agree? Too many things sometimes. Our palms can get us to convince others, to persuade others, and importantly, to get others to say yes to what we want them to do. And so today, it's my goal to encourage each and every one of us here to think about, where are my palms when I'm talking? All right? We're going to go through a little exercise. Don't be scared. I'm going to give a set of instructions 3 times. And I'm going to try and keep my voice the same. I'm going to try and keep my body posture the same. The only thing I'm going to change is where my palms are. Okay? Now, don't do this. Just imagine we're going to do this. Number 1. Today we're going to ask the people on this side of the room to go ahead and take a seat on this side of the room. We're going to ask the folks on this side of the room to go ahead and take a seat on this side of the room. And the folks in the back, if you wouldn't mind, come and take a seat at the front. And for those of us that are in the front, well, you can sit wherever you like. How's that sound? Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Would you be interested in doing what I asked everyone to do? Feel approachable? Build rapport?
Yeah.
Sound okay, right? I can pretty much get anybody to do what I want.
Yeah.
Number 2. Again, I'm going to try and keep my body posture the same. I'm going to keep the words the same. Just change the palm of where my hands are. Today I'm going to ask the people on this side of the room to go ahead and take a seat on this side of the room. And the folks over on this side of the room, I'd like to ask you to take a seat on this side of the room. And the folks in the back, I'd like you to take a seat in front. And the folks in the front, you can sit wherever you like. What words come to mind then?
A little more confusing.
More
Yeah.
confusing?
Movement.
Not as inviting.
Not as inviting?
No.
Perhaps in order, sort of?
Because the palms were down, like,
So just by changing my palms from an upward position to a downward position, it invited a different reaction. From positive to not as inviting. Number 3. Again, I'm going to try and keep my voice the same, my posture the same. Just move my hands. Today I want to ask the people on this side of the room to go ahead and take a seat on this side of the room. And those folks over here, I'd like you to take a seat over on this side of the room. The folks in the back, if you don't mind coming and take a seat at the front, the folks in the front, you can just stay wherever you like. What words come to mind there?
More of a power.
Rude.
Power, right? Directive, more than an order. Exactly.
I like it.
So just by changing our hands, our palms, in different positions, we invite different reactions. They say body language is a reflection of the emotions that we're feeling inside. Has anybody heard that before? Well, isn't the opposite perhaps true? By controlling our body language, could we also be controlling our emotions inside and getting others to feel differently about us and the way they perceive us? And couldn't we perhaps encourage others just by changing where our hands are, where our body is? This isn't my idea. I'll invite everybody to write down Alan Pease TED Talks. Go look that up. Okay? I encourage each and every one of us here to go ahead and practice. Practice what? Practice where our hands are when we're speaking. Where are your hands when you're talking? Just by changing the position of our palms could invite a different reaction, a better reaction, and it could perhaps get others to say yes when we want them to say yes. It could invite others to agree with us, to come along with us, and do whatever it is that we're asking them to do. So, fellow Toastmasters, ask yourselves this question: where are my hands when I'm talking? And practice, 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 practice. And we'll find out just how much we can encourage others and persuade others to do what we're asking them to do. Thank you.
Timer, can we have 1 minute on the clock for evaluations, please? Good stuff. Okay, thank you. Our second speaker, working his way through the storytelling manual. The story, project number 4, the touching story. He's going to arouse emotions while he tells the story. Running with a Purpose, competent communicator Jorge Friedland.
morning, Master Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. I'm sure all of you, much as I am, are inundated every single day with people asking you to donate money for some sort of charity or organization. And it comes now through every single medium. We just expanded the different mediums we could do that through. Now I get it through email, through text messages, now I get on the corner of the streets here even more recently, and through your coworkers coming in, and they'll sometimes they even bring their children in to guilt you into giving them money as well. And as I mentioned, a lot of the purposes are really good. You know, Girl Scout cookies. I mean, who doesn't like to donate to the Girl Scouts to get some Girl Scout cookies? I have a whole drawer in my office full of them. There's all sorts of different cancer research and things toward autism and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, my uncle actually started a really good charitable organization down south, doing a lot of local work down there with Alzheimer's, Wounded Warrior projects, all sorts of good causes out there. And then there are some more esoteric causes, some less important, like saving an animal or a rainforest or something like that. Something a little less,
Some crap.
less up there on the importance list, at least personally for me. What I choose to do, I know the Bible says that you should give and tithe 10% toward charitable acts every single year. A certain portion goes to the church, and a certain portion can go to any of the charitable organizations that you choose. And the way that I have ended up making up some of that a lot is through running different races. And all these races are always for different causes. Sometimes it doesn't really matter what the cause is, I just like to run the race. But I know it makes me feel good that I know that it's going to a good cause, and there's another organization out there that's going to decide what that cause is, and they've done the due diligence on it, and they know it's good, so I'm sure it's fine. But I had fun doing it, and then I got to hang out with a lot of really good, positive people while I'm doing it. And you get to see a lot of people while you're running these races that motivate you and put kind of your life in perspective. I've seen and ran with mentally challenged individuals, with handicapped people with prosthetic limbs. And when you're just with these people before, during, and after the race, it just makes you feel good looking at what they've accomplished running these different events. So what I want to do is share two different stories about effects that races have had on people. One a little more direct and one a little more tangential. So the first actually just happened a couple weeks ago in the London Marathon. A gentleman, 22 years old, ran the race to raise awareness for his friend who died recently. He died at the age of 21 years old from testicular cancer. So he ran the race in his honor to raise money for testicular cancer. But he did not run it in a very conventional way. So running a marathon is hard enough as it is, but he ran the marathon dressed up as a giant pair of testicles. And his goal was to raise 5,000 pounds doing this, and they raised far and above that. If I could have had the picture, I would have done it, but it actually is a real mascot. He's called Mr. Testicle, and it's a huge scrotum that this person put on their body, and it even has like some hairs and things coming off of it. But he ran for 4+ hours with this huge thing on covering his whole body from here down to his knees, and he was able to raise the money he wanted to, and he was quoted saying that his friend would have thought it would have been hilarious to run. And the mascot is for real, and it is the mascot for the Male Cancer Awareness Campaign. The second story happened a couple years ago when a gentleman was watching his friend in the Boston Marathon in 2013. At this point of the race, when the bombs went off, we're so far into the race at this point that this wasn't the people that were running the race that qualified for the race. These are a lot of the charity runners already coming through at this point. Most of the elite runners that were doing it for time had already finished well before that. Just to give you an idea of what it takes to qualify for the Boston Marathon, if I wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, I would have to run a marathon in 3 hours and 10 minutes, which I could tell you is not going to happen. Unless I was on some serious performance-enhancing drugs, which isn't going to happen. That's about 7.5 minute miles. I could do that for a few miles, but no way am I doing it for 26 miles. This was 4+ hours into the race when this happened. So the twin bombs went off, and he was one of the individuals who actually ended up being one of the more iconic pictures from that tragedy. He was shown kind of stumbling around in tattered clothing. He actually had to remove 2 roofing staples from his stomach out in the scene. Ended up having to get pig skin grafts on his right arm and his right leg, and stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks after that race while watching his friend compete. After he spent his 2-week stint in the hospital, he left and went to a rehabilitation center where he ended up working on his rehab, and his rehabilitation nurses, lo and behold, one of them he ended up falling in love with her, and they got married last summer in a ceremony in Boston, donated by, a lot of the services donated by the local community there. And even when he went to go propose to her, it was a trip to France sponsored by all the survivors of the Boston Marathon. And a lot of this kind of ties back a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the butterfly effect. If certain things happen, you never know how your life would have turned out. And he's even quoted as saying, I know my wife doesn't like it when I say this, but I'm glad I got blown up that day. I'm not glad that everybody else had to, but I'm glad it happened, because were it not for that, I would have never met her. So just keep in your mind thinking about, you never know what life's going to bring to you through different actions and through the linkages and continuum of time. In conclusion, I just like to say that while a lot of people think that running is boring, I was noted that last week when I was actually watching the Boston Marathon on TV, and my wife came in and said, "Are you really watching running on TV?" I said, "Yes, I'm really watching running on TV, because it's motivating to watch it, and just being there and going to all these events. You just know that being around all these people, there isn't a better way to spend a couple of 30 minutes or an hour of your life than with hundreds or perhaps thousands of positive people." Master Joseph.
Oh. 1 minute on the clock, please, Macarena. Guinevere, anybody remember her? Guinevere said, "Tra-la-la, it's May, the lusty month of May." You can have a look at her. The lusty picture. When we were kids in New York, every community had a maypole festival. We did not know what was involved. It was pretty. You got ribbons and you did a particular dance, and if you did it correctly, you wrapped this maypole very tightly and very nicely. Otherwise, you made a mess, and a lot of them were messes, a lot of them were nicely done. Little did we know that it was the pole of fertility when we were doing it. They didn't tell us that part. Our final speaker for the day, a Toastmaster for 17 years, a software engineer for 19 years, and a hypnotist for 27 years, is going to ask us a question today. Is it real? Please welcome Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan. Bless you. Bless.
Is that real? It wasn't real. I just want the attention, that's all.
I remember as a little kid sitting in front of the television watching one of the Peter Pan plays being shown on television. And if you've seen that or if you've seen it on stage, you know that point where Tinkerbell's had drunk the poison to prevent Peter Pan from doing so, and she's dying. Asks all the kids in the audience, if you believe, clap your hands as loud as you can and as fast as you can if you believe to help save Tinkerbell's life. Which of course all the kids are doing furiously, because that's what they want to do. But is it real? We're all imagining what we can accomplish. And the imagination of the kids is very strong, and that's why they believe it can be real. And they're clapping so hard. What happens when we grow older? What happens to that imagination, the things that we think or thought once were real, what are they now? Having been a hypnotist for a long time, whenever anyone's asking me, what is it that you do? Usually it's first of all, okay, software engineer, because that's my day job. But by night, or however you wish to think about it, when I say I'm a hypnotist, that's where everyone goes, oh, really? And guess what's the first question I get? Is it real? If it isn't, the whole world has been in a conspiracy against me for the past 27 years. But then you want to explain to them, what is it then? And this is where it takes a little bit more of an understanding. I can give simple examples. One of the common examples I like to give is if you've ever been driving down the road and didn't remember the last few miles, well, guess what? You've already been there. That was hypnotic state. Be thankful your subconscious knows how to drive. If you've ever been in a book and got absorbed and didn't hear anything or notice anything going on around you, people talking to you and you just didn't notice it at all. Or when you're watching a movie or television show, those are all the same things. What's going on when that happens? What were you doing driving those miles when you didn't remember? Where were you? Where was your mind at that point in time? And the real fun one, if anyone has ever volunteered to do a stage show, to be one of the volunteers for one of the stage hypnosis shows, it's fun listening to some of them afterwards. The ones who get up there and afterwards they just tell you, oh, I was just playing along. I've done the shows, they're fun. And let me explain to you what the stage show hypnotists will do. They want people who are going to go into hypnosis, they want people who are going to be interesting. And anyone who isn't going to do either, they're going to dismiss from the stage. If you're still up there, whether you or not you thought you were playing along, you were still in hypnosis doing it. But what do you mean when you say you're playing along? What does it mean when you were driving along and didn't remember the rest? Your mind wasn't blank, was it? You were off thinking about something else. When you were reading the book, your mind was absorbed into the story or on the movie. You were imagining. So is it real? And my answer to you is going to be, can you imagine? Now we learned somewhere along the line, from going from kid to going to adult, is that what you imagine isn't real. Those monsters under the bed, no, they're not real. But what we imagine is real. If you've ever known somebody who had a serious problem with fears, a PTSD, their feeling of what they're afraid of isn't real in that moment, what we call reality. But for their imagination, it is, and therefore they react to it. What you imagine is real. Your subconscious can't know the difference. When you hear the phrases, what the mind can achieve, can conceive, it can achieve. It's that same concept. What you can imagine can become real, or is the reality you make. So hypnosis, when I describe it, I have to explain for many people. They think they're on stage and they were just playing along. And the fact is, you are engaging your imagination. And the moment you engage your imagination, you're also playing within that realm. When I describe hypnosis, when I had to describe what it is when I say I define it, it is the stimulation of the imagination, specifically to the point where you're able to bypass your normal critical factors, your normal worldview, and let other ideas in. By letting the other ideas in, you can make those changes. If you can imagine them, you can help make them happen. You can help get rid of the fears, and I've done that in 20 minutes for people who've had them for many years. Once they realize that it's their own imagination, they go, wait a minute, it's not real. And I don't have to imagine it's real anymore. And their problem is gone. When people get up here and tell a story, they're engaging your imagination. And this is why you'll hear it. If you want to make a point, you tell a story. Because if you can engage their imagination, whether or not they think of the point you made, they remember the story. And then your point gets through. This is why when I try to explain to people, well, what does it feel like? This is real fun for people in stations. I felt normal while I was up there. You felt normal when you were driving your car. You felt normal while you were reading your book. You feel normal when you're stuck in class, bored, and off daydreaming somewhere else. Because that's exactly what it is. Daydreaming. That is the closest explanation I can give to being in hypnosis. Because you're engaging the imagination, you're essentially filtering out the rest of the world, and that is exactly that same state. So yeah, it feels normal. It feels good, too. So when you run into that situation of somebody asks you, why are you thinking these things, imagining these things? Why do these fears or worries or any of the other concerns you may have worry you? It's just in your imagination. But does that mean, is it real? Madam Toastmaster.
The evaluation goes.
You get a minute?
I guess.
We get a minute.
Mayday flowers, baskets, and wreaths. All right, that's enough. We're gonna have.
Funny smell of flowers.
Imagine them. We're gonna have some time to play. Table topics master. Ernst Brenten, come on down.
Fellow members, I will not ask any esoteric questions. However, everybody has a function today. So anyone who does not have a function,
Just don't call the evaluators.
Carrie.
Don't call the evaluators, if you can help it. The speech
Carrie,
evaluators.
are you originally from Florida? No, okay, good. Where are you from?
A little bit of all over.
North.
Where were you born, Carrie?
Rochester, New York.
She's a New Yorker.
Right. When Stephanie said, it's May Day, but it's really not May Day, May Day, May Day like we know it. I tried to figure out what May Day is all about and where it came from. Actually, it came from the French. In 1900 or 1897, they tried to communicate within the French airport and the British airport, somewhere in London, to develop a distress signal. And May Day in French is a day. May Day. May Day is spelled M''A', meaning help me in French. Well, they couldn't really pronounce it well, so they said May Day. But it's actually May Day in French, a day. I am very confused. It's a French derivation of May. Anyways.
The Germans were helping the French?
In May, there's a lot of flowers starting to bloom, and especially up north, they have a special flower which creates sensual feelings. I used to love it. I'm from Germany, and I love these flowers. Actually, it's almost a bush or a tree in many ways. Carrie, what would that flower be, you think? Or which has such beautiful sensual feelings?
Answer the question.
I know growing up and when I lived in outside of Buffalo, the flowers for me that were always the ones that would start blooming and beautiful because they actually needed the cold to make them better were the roses. We had roses around down the whole side of our house, all different colors, and they were amazing and beautiful and actually more even prettier than the ones here because they had the cold because they needed the break. That would be
Actually, the flower or the bush I was talking about is called lilac. It's amazing. But they don't have any lilacs on here, though.
we had those buffaloes.
May is springtime here in the northern hemisphere. What is it in the southern hemisphere, and why is it that way, Gus?
Master Tabletop Master, that was an esoteric question for me. I was trying to find ways to get you, one of those counters, but I did not. I cannot tell you what the flowers are because the temperatures and the climate will change. I'm not so much of a guy who is in the garden, but right now, I know around Florida there are beautiful flowers in the gardens I can see, and even some ladies just dressed in a pretty way that they all look like flowers. That's the tabletop master.
That wasn't a question, but
Hey, it's an answer.
Here's an answer. The first day of May is a day where there are generally protests all over the world. What may be the reason, Julia?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics. Well, if you live up north, it's probably you're protesting the weather because it's supposed to be spring and they may still have snow. That could be one protest. Another could be labor. Wasn't the reason for May Day a labor issue at one point? So a labor issue could be another reason. For me, May is a wonderful month. It's springtime, it's beautiful weather, and it just so happens to be my birthday.
Happy Thursday. Thank you for those enlightening questions. All right. May Day, the distress signal, by the way, is always given in threes. Mayday, 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 so it cannot be confused with anything else that might have been said over the radios or whatever. So it's always done in threes, so they'll know it's real. There is a serious, serious fine issued to people who call a Mayday distress, and it's like a prank or it's not a real, up to $250,000 you can be fined for doing that. So all of you kids that pull fire alarm pranks when you were kids, I don't suggest you go out on your boats and call Mayday, unless Jaws is really on there. Okay, we're going to hear from our general evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster, Julia Kaufman.
Fellow Toastmasters, and it's a big happy birthday today to Miss Carrie. Yeah, I'll have to go out for drinks.
Speech.
You know, birthdays. All right. This is the portion where the true meat of why we're here is to hear how we did in our speeches, areas for improvement. It is where the evaluators provide a clear and encouraging evaluation of their opinion of the person's speech. It's not an esoteric one. We have 3 evaluators and 3 speakers. We're going to get right to it. Our first evaluator, who is evaluating Martin's inspirational speech, please welcome to the lectern, Mr. Mike Hughes.
Let me kick us off with a happy birthday to my dear friend. Anyway, all right, so why are we here? That's a great question. Because my palms say, back up. I don't want to be here. I'm just kidding. No, fellow Toastmasters, especially Mr. Bell, loved the topic. Absolutely love the topics. I'm reading a book right now on body language by Joe Navarro, and another one I'm going to be reading here shortly. The interesting thing that is one of the parts that I'm going to go out and word a little bit is where I'm going to for my master's degree is the Research Parkway. One of the things they're developing are robots that can read body language. So if you were in a military or an esoteric operation, that they can start seeing what are the intentions of groups of individuals moving toward a said bunch of, I'll use all class today. Soldiers, that's the word I'm looking for. All things aside, now, your job is persuade a persuasive speech, and it has to be in the self-interest of the audience. I think it was. I think everyone here got something from that, because what I'm doing doesn't make sense. I can invite you. But no, did you project some sincerity and conviction? Absolutely. Credible source. You read a couple books, I guess that makes you an expert, right? Yeah. That's what I said. I mean, every PhD has them. They read a couple books. Did the speaker phrase their appeal in terms of the audience self-interest? Yes. When we give speeches, how important is it that we use our hands? And I thought that was an excellent point. Did the speech opening capture the audience's interest? Yes. I think everyone who found that kind of it's a bad day. Today's speaker, did the speaker use facts and logical reasoning? I wanted more. I wanted more facts, to be honest with you. Did the speaker properly use emotion to persuade? Yes. You start doing this, and guys, come on. You said the same thing, but there's a little bit of a jump in the voice because it's something that's part of the limbic brain, something we can't control is when we start to encourage, our voices get softer. If we vote for somebody, we use it with a deeper voice, and we have power. But our hands, we make points with throwing darts. The organized and effective, absolutely. Body language, talking about it. And did it persuade to accept the speaker's views? Yes, definitely. I use it, I'm gonna start using it now. How can I make it a little bit more, more better? How can I make it a little better? Make it.
Miriam, take note.
Could the speaker done it differently? A little more detail. I wanted more detail, maybe a little more history, research, the reasoning we do that. Why does the brain do that? And where does it come from? Is this something that goes 10,000 years, a million years ago? Perhaps. So, what I like about it, I find body language personally interesting. I thought it was a great speech and did an excellent job. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Our next evaluator is our birthday girl, and she'll be evaluating Mr. Friggles.
Friggles, yeah.
Very close to speech. Please welcome Carrie to lectern.
supposed to be the touching story. I'm going to read you what it's supposed to be. The speaker was to prepare and present an original story designed to evoke emotion among listeners using description and dialogue. The speaker was not to use scripts or notes while telling the story. What you did wasn't exactly that. So there really wasn't any dialogue. You told a couple little more anecdotal stories to make your point. So it was somewhat tough to evaluate. However, I did like what you were speaking about as far as the running for a purpose. I've done that. I ran a marathon and with the money going to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And it was difficult, but it was horrible, and, but very rewarding. And I actually have no improve it, and I'll probably never do another one. So, but I do think the descriptive language that you used was really good. I really got the image of the costume. London Marathon, but also because we also have seen, the majority of people have seen the videos from the Boston Marathon from a couple years ago. So it was easy to picture the specific person that you were talking about who eventually went to rehab and met his wife. I do think you had good body language. I liked all of, and I really liked the story. I just don't think that it really fit what you were supposed to be doing. And that's really it. It was a great speech, just maybe not for this project.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our third evaluation, encouraging and supportive evaluation, will be given by Samuel Bailey.
First off, I would like to say this is not fair.
By faith fair.
Absolutely. Well, the purpose of this speech is to talk, or for the speaker to present a 6 to 8 minute analysis of a concept, idea, theory, historical event, or social/public issue. He did exactly this. It was a little bit of a theory, a little bit of idea, and a little bit of historical issue, because hypnosis has been around for a while. I love that connection that you came in the beginning. What is it that your night job, hypnosis, you are Batman. I wanted to see a little bit more going into it in the beginning, because you related it to the levels of consciousness, so maybe if you went to the subconscious, that's just the psych major in me though. And I like how you drew us in with a concept in the beginning that we all could understand. When we were a child, our imagination, Tinkerbell, it was a very emotional tie-in to the story, and that was perfect to grab the attention. Was the topic narrow enough to explain sufficiently in a timely manner? Yes, it was, and you did a perfect job at it. You were able to turn a very esoteric, did I say that right? Speech into something that was simplified for all of us, all the way down to our imagination and daydreaming, driving. We do it all the time. As a matter of fact, I think I only remember about 5 minutes of my drive here. How effectively did the speaker draw the experts' opinions while discussing the issue? You did it very well. You turned a non-fictional matter into a fictional one and brought in a completely different light to it. The only thing that I would change, I felt that I personally was able to connect to it a little bit better than everybody else because you actually performed hypnosis on me 2 weeks ago right before my final exam. And I have to say it works. Usually halfway through the exam, especially since it is open book, I'm flipping through the book, it takes me a little bit longer to read stuff and I get extremely anxious. It took me all the way to about the last 30 minutes of a 3-hour exam compared to the last hour and a half. So there is something to it, even though it did feel incredibly normal and I was actually laughing at him as he was performing it. All in all, you are the Batman to speeches. Good job.
Great evaluations, everybody. That's what it's all about. We hear what we liked about the speech, we tell areas that could help that speaker improve on, and we give those encouraging feedback. So talking about feedback, let's hear from our technical table. How did we do with our ahs, ums, and double clutches, Mr. Gus Davies?
Madam General Evaluator, this is my report. Alexandra, you have 2 and at the beginning. Stephanie, I was watching you. 1 R, that's all.
Yes. Take that.
Gus, 1 R.
No, you know.
Martin Bell, 1 and 1 so and 1 tongue click. Mr. Pringles, 2 ands and 1 so. Stephen, I was watching you like a hawk. You had 1 so. It may have been argued we were making a transition, but I wanted to get you on one thing.
That's fair.
And 1 R and 2 and. Julia, you're clean so far. Mike Hughes, 1 R and 2 so's. Carrie, 1 so and 1 and. Sam, 1 so and 1 and. And there's a penalty, it's 5 cents? 5 cents. Please pay the treasurer on your penalties. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's hear our timer report. Mac attack.
Martin Bell, 5 minutes, 13 seconds. Jorge, right?
Yeah.
Jorge. 7 minutes, 23 seconds. Good job. Stephen, 7 minutes, 19 seconds. It was a 5 to 7 minute speech, right?
No, it was 6 to 8.
Yes, sorry.
It said 5 to
No,
7 on
he
the
said 5
agenda,
to
so she
7.
put the cards up correct as she knew it.
Oh.
So it was supposed to be 5 to 7?
It's fine. 30-second overlap. That's fine.
It's not
We should know
He's
that.
still in.
Carrie, table topics. Let's see, it's 31 seconds. Gus, 33 seconds. Julia, 30 seconds. Mike, 3 minutes, 12 seconds. Carrie, 2 minutes, 6 seconds. Samuel, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. And that is my report.
Awesome. And finally, but not last, our Grammarian report, Ms. Alexandra
Wait.
Baldwin.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I was so absorbed with the stories and I was trying to catch some grammars and good sentences. However, I was through by the esoteric fact that we have so many birthdays today or yours and we didn't know. However, the people that use the words are Jorge, Julia, Mike, Sam, Macarena, Gus, moi, and whoever didn't use the word is 25 cents. I like the following sentences during the different speeches. Martin said our palms, we didn't know our palms do many things sometimes. That was okay. That was great. Stephen, be thankful your unconscious know how to drive. That was a great sentence. And Mike, you have a couple. The one I like is you said something about read a couple of books makes you an expert. I didn't know that. My favorite one, you say something. How could you make it more better? Is that what you said? Oh, that was interesting. Thank you.
Great meeting, wonderful speeches, fantastic evaluations, good feedback from our technical table. Overall, I don't know why there are not more people at this meeting. This is a fantastic club. This is a fantastic club, Martin. Do I see it? Yeah.
Yes.
Thumbs up. I enjoyed all the speeches, learned a lot. So now it's my, did you catch the so, Gus? Now it's my
Just gave up on
time
that.
is up and to call up our VP of Education, Mr. Stephen Morgan.
All
another meeting down. I have the schedule that we have set up for next week, still has some open slots. Currently, Julia, your Toastmaster. Do you have a theme yet?
No, I don't. I will
Okay.
send one out.
The listed speakers, Gus, Alexandra, and Samuel. I think we're not going to do it in that order. Table topics, Mike.
Yep.
Currently, evaluators are myself and Martin. Carrie, you have yourself as eye counter, and Ernst as timer. There is a spot open for general evaluator, an evaluator, and grammarian. Anyone wish to?
Marion.
At some point, I'm going to have to ban the experienced people from taking the technical table, so that you actually start doing some other things.
Gus.
Sorry, that was the spot
All
open.
right, evaluating.
Evaluator? Okay, or
Wait a minute.
I think you'll still need to find a general evaluator then, we'll figure that one out. The following week, Gus, you are Toastmaster, and currently there are speakers, Ernst and Carrie, and there's an open slot available. The week after that is supposed to be when we have our elections, we're supposed to have them in May. This is for the terms that begin July 1st. So take in mind, think about which of the officer roles you would be willing to consider, and please don't sit there and go none at all. Because we're going to need all 7, 8 of them filled. And the only one that is restricted is Erica can't be president. Can't do it 2 in a row. Everything else is open for everyone. As for the concern about attendance, we're actually not doing too bad. My other club is also going through a lull. It seems to be about this time of year we hit that point.
Mayday.
Yeah.
Mayday.
Hopefully it'll kick in soon because we need a few more members before we hit June 30th so that we're up to charter strength. So get some other people here as well. Okay, the district conference is set for May 29th and 30th at the Florida Mall. You hadn't caught wind of it yet. We're going to have someone on stage in the international speech contest.
Yeah, who's that?
Stephanie.
You won?
If I don't chicken out, that's true.
Oh, come on.
You're answering to me if you chicken out on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Aha. The winner of that one will get to go on, the winner of that contest gets to go to Las Vegas for
Vegas, baby.
Wow.
on Toastmasters dime at least for the trip, for the semifinals and hopefully on to the finals for the World Championship.
Wow. We also have.
I'm also excited because a member of my other club is also going to be on that stage for that same contest. So I've got
Who's that?
Jonathan Dunn.
Oh, yes.
Jonathan Dunn.
He won,
He won Division D. So I'm going to be very eager for that one. If you haven't signed up for the conference yet, ToastmastersD84.org is where you can go to do it. And by all means, please consider at least getting the International Speech Contest Saturday evening. Question?
Well, I wanted to tell
Tell
you
them
my,
about Julia.
so we have workshops on Saturday, and I submitted a proposal to do a workshop, and it got accepted. So I will be doing on Get Smart Leadership. So if you're going to the conference, make sure you come to my workshop. All right?
What time?
It's at, I think it's 11, I'm slotted for 11. It's either that or laws and regulations, so, yeah, that's a no-brainer, right? Parliamentary something.
That's fine. That'll be Saturday morning when the educational sessions are. Friday night is table topics contest. The lunch on Saturday should be, let's see what you're doing this one, it should be the Golden Gavel one.
Volunteerism too, I think, on the Saturday luncheon. Tell them the theme, flashbacks,
Flashbacks, television
Hence
flashbacks.
the name of the workshop. I had to change it to match a TV series, so I went with Get Smart.
Friday night, you'll see people dressed up as strange TV characters from the past.
So,
At least that's the idea. Since it's close by, please consider doing so if you haven't been to one yet, since we have, our particular club has reason to be proud of it, we should be there. Are there any other questions? Announcements, anything else?
We made 90 cents. Alex 10, Stephanie 5, Gus 5, Martin 15, Jorge 15.
I did.
Gus
you have to pay it.
Yes.
Okay, Stephanie, please come forward.
what's that?
Oh,
Who's this? 50-50.
Stephanie, please come forward. There is no
Stephanie.
quantity.
Oh, never mind.
There's another reason to be celebrating May Day this particular year. May 1st was when Stephanie had a couple of awards submitted to Toastmasters, including her second Advanced Communicator Gold. And therefore you get a pin to wear and put on for that one.
Look like Mr. Smith.
She forgot about it. You specifically requested I put it on May 1st. She forget.